Welcome to the College Basketball Net Profit Show, Thursday, January 19th. Ian Cameron, Conor Mack on a Thursday, ready to break it down. A lot of mid-major action. We got a handful of bigger conference games too, Big Ten, Pac-12, and others, but mostly devoted to the mid-majors, it seems, on these Thursday night slates. So without further ado, we'll get into it. Rutgers and Michigan State. First game to kick it off here. Michigan State 3-point home favorites, 127. The total here in this one, Big Ten action. Rutgers is not that automatic fade, at least for me, on the road anymore. We've seen this Scarlet Knights team really step their game up away from the rack this season. Won their last road game at Northwestern. It was actually best bet on the show for me last week. In that game, they beat Purdue outright as 8.5-point underdogs on the road. So this team's actually covered 3 straight on the road, if you include the 1-point loss at Ohio State. So this is a good Rutgers team on the road. I actually think taking the 3 is a good way to go in this game. Michigan State dropping 2 in a row against Illinois and Purdue. They did have home wins and covers against Michigan and Nebraska here to begin Big Ten conference play. But this Rutgers team on the road, they've defended quite well. They certainly haven't been in awe of this Michigan State squad. They took 2 of 3 meetings, 2 of the last 3 head-to-head meetings last year at Rutgers. It was 84-63 all Rutgers in that game. Certainly Michigan State coming back home after a couple of losses should be fully focused and get a solid effort from them. But I like what I'm seeing right now out of Rutgers, 7-1 straight up and against the spread in their last 8 games. I'm going to take the bucket with Rutgers here because I'm not so sure Michigan State wins this game at all. And if they do win it, I don't think it's going to come by much of a margin. I could see this being a 1-possession down to the wire game. And keep in mind, Rutgers is very comfortable in these games. They've been very good in these close games. They've been in a lot of them. I like them +3 here. Conor, what do you think?
Yeah, this should be a good game. I thought the total was a little bit low. It's been bumped up. But both these defenses are really, really good. Even the high 120s here, 127, I lean under. And Rutgers defense has been really good. You talked about it, 2-2 on the road, but 3-1 ATS, where the last few years, even maybe they had better teams, were just horrible on the road. They're just, automatic fade like we talk about, play them at home. But they've struggled here, in Lansing. They just haven't got it done. So that's what's keeping me off both ways. I think Michigan State wins. This would be big for Rutgers. This is like a big one of these big wins. Like they haven't won their, go in there, win, cover at least. So I'm off. I think it's going to be a good basketball game, but I still lean under. Hall too being out. I think they're going to need him in a game like this, kind of like a low scoring game. So we'll see without him in.
Yeah, exactly, because Malik Hall has obviously been a missing piece for Michigan State much of the year, and if a front court piece they could use against a team pretty strong in that area, that being Rutgers. All right, Georgia State, Old Dominion. We've got Old Dominion 5-point home favorites, 129 the total in this game. I've been really fading Old Dominion a lot lately, especially when they've been laying points. And that's what I'm going to do here. I like the Georgia State Panthers here, plus the points in this game. Old Dominion's just doesn't play fast, doesn't push pace, not particularly efficient or great on the offensive end of the court. And that makes them a tough proposition usually when they're laying points. Now, Georgia State, they've definitely had taken some lumps. They have lost 3 of their last 4 games, but they responded from the losing streak and demolished Coastal in their last game, 100-66. Again, you look at the track record of ODU as favorites, 5.5-point favorites against Gardner-Webb, a 1-point win, 2.5-point favorites, George Mason, 1-point win, 10.5-point favorites, Arkansas State, they lose outright, 7.5-point favorites in their last home game against Coastal Carolina, they lose outright, same Coastal Carolina team that Georgia State just beat the shit out of. So to me, this is just, I think Georgia State could come in here and win the game outright. Never mind the +5, 5.5. Give me Georgia State. What do you think here, Conor?
They scored a ton. I don't think that's going to happen here. To me, I'd lean under. There's the total I don't love. Right under 130 in this one. I haven't been able, Old Dominion, I just haven't been able to figure them out all year long. And maybe this is a little bit of a stretch, I thought. 4-5, but at home they have played better. So in the end, I stayed off this one. Old Dominion, though, if you want them to cover late, bad free throw team. This is what I looked earlier today: 67%, 338, or 64%. Sorry, 338. So that could come in handy if you like Georgia State. Georgia State, I want to see it on the road, and maybe they can get it done with the 5.
All right, next up, it's James Madison, Troy. We've got James Madison here currently in this one, about a 1-point road favorite. Pick them in some spots, 144.5 the total in this game. Troy, a very solid defensive team. It's why they're 12-7 on the year, 6-1 on their home floor as well. James Madison, they've lost 3 of their last 4 games. Remember, James Madison got off to a phenomenal start, putting up big points as well at the beginning of the season. It's not been as easy for them, especially offensively. 3 losses. They only scored 62 points in those 3 games, losing outright as favorites to Texas State, App State, South Alabama, but finally righted the ship against Georgia Southern, 83-71 in their last game. Troy's off a 58-45 loss on the road against Appalachian State, but again, for the most part, they've been pretty solid here on their home floor. They've been trending under the total significantly. James Madison was a big over machine early, but again, with their offense cooling off and their defense picking up, it's been a combo for unders for them lately. 5 of their last 6 games have gone under, yet this total's steaming up. It's gone from 141 all the way up to about 146 now, 145.5 now, the current number here with this total. Troy at home, you'd think they're going to want to slow this down. The question is, will they be able to? That remains to be seen going into this game. Troy can be sometimes shaky on the offensive end, but like I said, very good defensively. Can they shut down this James Madison team? It's really a classic matchup of strength versus strength. James Madison shooting it, Troy on the defensive end. So Troy has a good home record. I lean Troy a little bit, and probably because of that, I have to lean under. It does feel like one of those games where Troy covers, it goes under. James Madison wins, it goes over. Definitely could be one of those games. I do lean a little to Troy and under, though, here on the home floor. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, it has moved up a little bit. That's what I looked at in this game. I'm off in this one. Can James Madison get back to the kind of the old team? Teams aren't the same come January, February, that they were November, early December. And the offense, like you mentioned, still, this team scores 85 per. I kind of lean them to bounce back. And Troy, I thought they'd be a lot worse. They had that great non-conference, had a couple good covers. Should be a good game, but I'm off here, and I lean under.
There we go. All right, next game up, we've got Purdue and Minnesota. We go back to the Big Ten here. It is Purdue currently in this game about a 13.5, 14-point road favorite, 133 being the total in this one. Purdue obviously getting a solid victory earlier this week. They played on MLK Day at Michigan State, 64-63. Found a way to win. I mean, they led pretty much wire to wire, but they needed to hang on at the end of that game to get the victory. Minnesota got absolutely walloped in their last game at home against Illinois, 78-60, a loss at home to the Illini. We'll see if they are able to bounce back here against the Purdue Boilermakers. But last year, these two teams played twice. Purdue winning both games by 15+. Both games sailing over the total. This series history also trending over the total. And with Minnesota on the defensive end kind of falling off a little bit in 2 of their last 3 games, in particular on their home floor, they gave up 81 to Nebraska, 78 to Illinois, both games soaring over the total. I'm pivoting away. I mean, I had some winners with Minnesota. I don't think this is the spot necessarily. I love backing them. I think they're going to struggle containing Edey here, but over 133 is of interest to me. This total's light, especially considering the struggles of defense lately here for Minnesota. In theory, they have a front court that's not terrible, but when you're talking about a guy like Edey, it is very difficult to contain, even for some of the better teams in terms of size and length down low. And I don't think Minnesota has the quality of player in that position to really trouble Edey as much as some other teams might. So for me, it would be the over. The side's tough because I still think Minnesota, after a rough start, they're a little bit undervalued. They have covered 3 of 4, but they didn't match up well against Purdue, and they lost twice to this team by 15+ points. So that has me pumping the brakes on taking the Gophers tonight. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, even at home, they just don't match up well. I mean, you could tell, like you mentioned, the last few years have covered even this number. this big. Minnesota's just going to get pounded. They struggle rebounding normally, and Purdue, obviously, with 80 top defensive rebounding team, top 10 on the offensive glass. They should eat down there. It's just, hey, do you want to lay a conference game? You want to lay 15 here? Because I think they win by 20, kind of how it's been, or maybe Minnesota hangs around. The shots for them got to drop. They're not a team that shoots well from deep, and that's where they got to hit some. So if those drop, they might be around. If they don't, they won't.
All right, here we go. We got Michigan and Maryland now. Maryland 2.5-point home favorites, another Big Ten matchup. 2.5, 3 in some spots, 142. This definitely, from a spot perspective, screams Maryland. It really does. I mean, they've been a different team at home. They've been 8-1 straight up at home, 6-3 against the spread. And Michigan, I don't really trust away from Chrysler Center there in Ann Arbor. I mean, they lost at Iowa, completely blew that game. They had a lead, and they let Iowa come back, force overtime, and then they lost the game and the cover in overtime. Frustrated me because I was on Michigan and the over. I ended up splitting in the end because Michigan couldn't hang on. They lost as straight up in ATS on the road at Michigan State, lost away from home against North Carolina. Kentucky, they lost. I mean, their only home road win and cover, or neutral win and cover lately, was Minnesota back on December 8th. And Minnesota was still struggling at that time. So don't have utmost confidence of Michigan here on the road going into this game against a Maryland team that it's been pretty simple with them lately. You take them on the road, you want no part, or you take them at home, you want no part of them on the road. I mean, the last 3 road games for Maryland have been ugly, and one of those road losses was against this very same Michigan team, and they got destroyed 81-46. I don't think Maryland's forgotten about that. Number one, I don't think Michigan's quite as good as they showed that day, and number two, I think Maryland definitely will have a little bit of that game on their minds as they take the court here tonight. So we'll have to wait and see. There is definitely, you're right, a couple of key potential absences for the Maryland side, including Dante Scott, which is significant, 12.4 points per game that he gives you. Good on the glass, good on the inside as well. And he is questionable for this game tonight due to a illness. So we'll have to wait and see if he's able to suit up tonight for the Terrapins. Certainly they'd like to have him out there. He was basically, he did play against Iowa, and he hasn't missed much time yet, but we'll have to wait and see if he suits up tonight. You know, as far as this game goes, though, I mean, I still like Maryland. I think this spot sets up well here tonight for the Terrapins. What do you think here, Conor? Michigan, Maryland.
Yeah, I see that if they're none yet. Yeah, they do. They're going to need it here tonight. And Michigan just owned this team. I think they've won 5 or 6 in a row when I was going through it earlier today. Maryland just has not matched up well. And Scott, I think, has to be in there. And good luck. Sometimes getting these, get him know that he's going to be in here. You know, in this game is going to start in hour 45 minutes. Man, I'm all over the internet. I can get some of these guys going to be in and out. So he's got to be in. I think so, because I think Michigan can pound it inside. I'm going to be off because this sets up. They got blasted. This was a couple Sundays ago. I think it was my only bet that Sunday. I took Michigan. They just killed them. The spot's good for Maryland. They beat a banged up Wisconsin team, looked a little bit better. Just the shooting. God, if they can hit some threes, they do shoot better at home. They're going to need it in this one. Their defense, though, a little bit better, and it shows at home. So tough for me. I think I'm going to stay off as much as I want to take lean Maryland a little bit at home.
All right, we got Wichita State now taking on Memphis in the AAC. Memphis 10.5-point home favorites in this matchup. The total currently a 140.5. A lot of money to the over. People seeing that Wichita State is starting to shoot the ball better, and I said that against Tulsa. I thought, their totals are a little low now because of all the issues they've had scoring consistently. Well, now they're starting to shoot a little bit better, and they're going over the total now as a result. So I understand where some people are looking here in this game, and certainly Memphis. Memphis is one of those teams, they always push the pace, but they're not always very efficient. They go in droughts. They sometimes miss jump shots at a far too high of a clip, and sometimes that can take away from the fact they play pretty fast. They struggled mightily to shoot the basketball Sunday at Temple, but their defense got it done and really just couldn't totally smothered Temple, and that's the reason why they were able to escape with the win, 61-59. But, this team hasn't covered in 7 straight games, Memphis. They've clearly been an overvalued point spread commodity repeatedly here. On the flip side, you look at Wichita. They've had some decent results. They've had some bad results. But the one thing that's been a pretty solid consistent for the Shockers is hanging in tough on the road. Winning outright as a slight road dog at South Florida, losing by 7 against Central Florida on the road, losing by 5 at Kansas State on the road. They haven't been blown out on the road. And this is a point spread where, it indicates maybe they get blown out here. And they haven't shown any signs of being totally whipped away from home and getting blown out like that. So, and Memphis has just been totally overvalued. So I'm on the plus 10, 10.5 here with Wichita State. Conor, what do you think?
Yeah, both teams dealing with, a few guys in and out. What's going to happen in this one? You're right, though. They've been able to hang around for a team that, man, can both. You mentioned Memphis, the droughts, which can happen. Wichita State, you mentioned they could score a little bit more. And sometimes they get away with it. I don't know, when you play Tulane or teams like this, SMU, but I don't know. They struggle to score. But I do agree with you here. I think 10 points is way too many. So I lean Wichita here. No way on the back of Memphis team laying double digits, even at home, that hasn't covered 7 straight. Come on now. No way.
Yeah, no way is right. No way, Jose, no pun intended. But it looks like Shema Scott and Quincy Ballard right now questionable, as well as Gus Okafor for Wichita State tonight in this game. We'll see if they're able to suit up. You look at the production, though, of those players in terms of their potential absence. Gus Okafor, 5.1 points per game. Shema Scott, 3. These are all, reserve players. They're not game breakers. The one that was the most important, and he's not going to play, he's been ruled out. Jaden Hardaway is only a supporting player, role player. But Alex Lomax is kind of a bigger one for Memphis, 8.1 points per game, pretty effective. For the Tigers, he won't play. So, yeah, you got some injuries on both sides. But again, Memphis has had trouble scoring now all of a sudden lately. And that's a problem if you're going to lay double digits. So I think Wichita can hang in this game. Shout out, by the way, to Christopher Comatini, $10 dono. We appreciate it very much. Yeah, Lafayette, good job. Yeah, great win there. Wire to wire, all over. Their opponent in that game, Lafayette, got the job done against American University. Great job by the Leopards of Lafayette in that game. So shout out, Christopher. We appreciate the dono. All right. And by the way, hit the like button, 140 live viewers, and become a YouTube member. Pub Sports Radio, just $4.99 a month. Make sure you become a member of the channel. All right, let's move along. Back to the Big Ten we go. We're not done with this conference yet. Indiana, Illinois. Illinois, 6.5-point home favorites, 146 the total in this game. Illinois, 9-1 at home, starting to finally find their game. No question, 4-0 straight up, 4-0 against the spread, entering this matchup here against the Indiana Hoosiers, who snapped their own 3-game losing streak with a beatdown over Wisconsin, 63-45 in their last game. We'll see if they can keep the win vibes going here tonight against the Illini. I'm just not stepping in front of the Illini right now. They're starting to get their game back together again. Very impressive romp over Minnesota in their last game. Matt Mayer, the Baylor transfer, was outstanding. Terrence Shannon Jr., Danger, Sincere Harris. I mean, this team's starting to get their pieces coming together offensively. Lots of good chemistry, fluidity, very efficient during this win streak. And the defense starting to really step up, too, for the Illini. We know this Indiana team has really started to go on the downward slope since they've had both Xavier Johnson and Race Thompson out. Again, they did right the ship against Wisconsin at home, but now you're going to ask this team to go on the road. They've already lost to Rutgers and blown out on the road, Kansas blown out on the road, Iowa they lose on the road, blown out at Penn State. I mean, an ugly, ugly road track record for Indiana. I think Illinois is going to get the job done. I'm, in fact, going to go ahead and lay the points. I've been on the fence all day with Illinois, thinking about, do I lay it? I'm going to. I think they'll get the job done by at least 7 points here. Illinois minus the points for me. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yep, that's where I'd be. This team hasn't shown any life on the road in Indiana, and you talked about it. I think they're missing Thompson. Only Jackson Davis can only do so much, a few other of these guys. So, and you mentioned Illinois playing really good basketball, 4 in a row. I'd lay it as well here. Not a great free throw team, but hopefully they're up big. You wouldn't need it.
Exactly. Hopefully they're up by a big enough margin it won't come into play. All right, Loyola Marymount Gonzaga. West Coast Conference action here. We've got Gonzaga, as you would expect, 16-point home favorites, 159 the total. I mean, I already played this over the total. I mean, it's been really an over bonanza for Gonzaga. I was on that Gonzaga Portland over, I think, on Saturday. Man, that game, they put up 100
Holy
spots.
shit.
I know.
115.
Yeah, unbelievable for that's not unbelievable. Gonzaga's capable of doing that when they're locked in. And, I think there's people that have questioned. Well, first of all, people have questioned their defense, and rightfully so. But even people were starting to question, is this team even as good offensively as they've been in years past? Well, they're starting to answer that question, that they're still pretty damn good, in terms of being able to score points and put the ball in the basket. The ball movement is still very strong. It's always been a component of this Mark Few team. Razir Bolton has stepped up. They've, of course, got Drew Timme, one of the dominant bigs. Malachi Smith's been strong. This Julian Strother, seems to hit big shots for them, timely shots for this Bulldogs team. And no, their offense is fine. It's always been, their defense. And yeah, it's picking up their defense. It's getting better, but they're still going to be in such high-paced games that they're still going to give up, even if they're solid defensively. When's the last time we've seen the opponent not get to the 70s, at least against Gonzaga? It's been a while. So, I think Loyola Marymount and, their offensive capabilities, they're capable of finding some points as well in this game. They're actually not a bad shooting team at all. 95th three-point percentage, 115th field goal percentage overall in college basketball. And they've been talk about Gonzaga, how they've been lighting it up, and they haven't necessarily been trending over, but I find against the middle of the pack to lower tier teams in the West Coast Conference, those are the games that are more likely to fly over the total. And Loyola Marymount, I mean, they've gone 4-2 to the over in their last 6 games. 10 of their last 11 games on the road for LMU, Loyola Marymount, have gone over the total as well. 3 of the last 4 head-to-head meetings have gone over the total. So that's what I'm on here, the total, over 159, not even bothering with the side. What do you think here, Conor?
You said it all. Gotta yank my leg here or whatever, arm. Over. Just it's over here. Both teams shoot it too well. I agree with you. I took it at 158. It's moved a little up, but I still think it gets over here.
Yeah, I think we see a lot of points here, no doubt about that. All right, USC and Arizona. As we move to the Pac-12 here, Arizona, 8-point home favorites, 152 the total. I think wrong place, wrong time for USC. That's the way I see this. I mean, Arizona's not going to be happy, obviously. The return home after an absolute debacle against Oregon. Although Oregon, as we saw last night against Cal, Dana Altman, this is what he does. That team struggles early, and they start to fine-tune their game, get the chemistry right, and start to get better as the season goes on, and we're seeing it again right before our eyes. That being said, Arizona's too good to be blown out by that kind of margin against Oregon, even on the road. So they're not going to be happy. They're going to be in a foul mood, looking to bounce back. Remember the last time they were off a loss, they bounced back at Oregon State and they blew out the Beavers. Don't be fooled by the 12-point final score. They were up by 20, for a large part of that game. So this is an Arizona bounce back spot for sure. And look, it's not like a USC's been consistent, at times on the road. The UCLA game, keep in mind, they were down by 12 late in the second half, and I think UCLA fell asleep, and USC comes all the way back, makes it close down the stretch, and ends up losing by 2. But, it's not like they came out with the right energy in that game. They got themselves behind early, and if that happens tonight against Arizona, Arizona may not let USC back into the game like UCLA did. And keep in mind, before that, USC at Washington State lost by 10. On the road, 81-71. No, there's a reason why the money's come in on Arizona. It's their spot. They're a more than good enough team. We can trust them in a prime bounce back situation. So I like Arizona. In fact, I actually bet first half and full game, split it up here with the Wildcats. What do you think here, Conor?
That's where I'd look, is maybe early in this one. They jump up on them. But still, this is good they're coming home. They've had a good track record against SC. They just haven't been playing good basketball. You're just going to bank that they're coming home and will play well. But they're still so talented. I'm not going to really argue with it. The lone thing, maybe if you find this short, that this would have been higher a couple weeks ago, maybe 12 or something like that, 13. Just their defense. It's still 290 in the country. They struggle at times So that would be the lone thing with Arizona, even at home.
All right, definitely. All right, next up here. All right, let's see what we've got here. Oh yeah, still Pac-12. Washington State, Utah. Utah Utes, 3.5-point home favorites in this game. Total 129, pretty much across the board. Utah at Huntsman Center, 8-3 this year at home. They have lost a couple of games at home, so they're not always automatic like they've been many years, and they're not playing well right now. Utah, they've lost 3 in a row straight up in ATS, Oregon, at UCLA, at USC. That was a pretty damn difficult schedule, though. Now you're facing Washington State, who are a solid team, but they're not anything like those 3 teams. More concerning here for Utah is obviously they've had some injuries to contend with. It's been a big time problem for them. Haven't been able to overcome it, and Brandon Carlson was the big one. He's been banged up here in and out for weeks. And of course, he paces the team with 16 points per game. Looks like he's going to go here tonight for the Utes and be okay to return. This is another spot where it feels like, just like it was an Arizona spot last time, this kind of feels like it's Utah's opportunity here. Bounce back strong here on their home floor against the Washington State Cougars. That being said, Washington State has had decent success against Utah. 2 of the last 3 meetings, Washington State winning and covering. And also, the only win for Utah was a 2-point win in overtime. And here you are laying 3.5. So I'm going to stay off. But I do think Utah is probably sitting on a good spot here. What do you think here, Conor?
Yeah, they should back at home. I mean, it was not an easy road trip. I mean, if they could have got one out of the 2 there in Southern California, it would be good. I lean under with these 2 teams, and if Bamba's out, really lean under. Even if he's in, it's his hand. He's shooter, one of their better players, guard. Even if he's in, I don't know how great he will be. So I'm waiting on the news with him, and because my lean here is with Utah. I kind of want to lay the 3, but I'm on the fence a little.
All right, Washington and Colorado here. Another Pac-12 matchup. Colorado 9-point home favorites, 140 the total between these two. Colorado off a back-to-back losses in LA against USC and UCLA, and now they're back home where they smacked the living hell out of Oregon State and Oregon in their last 2 home games. So again, this feels like a home team bounce back spot. That seems to be the theme tonight. Arizona, Utah, and now here with Colorado as well. And Washington's gone on the road, and they've lost to Arizona, Arizona State, Gonzaga, in their last 3 road games. They did have back-to-back home wins against Cal and Stanford. Going to be a lot tougher, though, here on the road against Colorado. And by the way, Colorado last year handing Washington a 78-64 loss in the visit to Boulder for the Huskies. And earlier this season, remember, Washington faced Colorado December the 4th. 10-point win for Washington in that game. It was not one of Colorado's better performances. I think you're going to see Colorado play a lot better here in this game. Washington's kind of trending over. Keep in mind, their offensive numbers have picked up a little bit, and their defense, actually, if you go back to December 21st against Auburn, there's a big reason why this team's 5-2 in their last 7 games to the over. 84, 80, 74, 70, 73. They did give up only 69 against Stanford, which is the least amount of points they've given up in their last 7 games, but Stanford's offense is nails on a chalkboard. It's tough to really like that team offensively. And then their last game, they give up 78 to Cal, who's a schizophrenic team offensively. And they were a terrible offensive team early in the season. We just saw Oregon put the boots to them. So I lean Colorado, and I also lean over. I think we can probably get over 140 in this game. Colorado will shoot well. They'll score points. Washington's picked things up a little bit offensively. And again, their totals have just been too low lately. So for me, it would be the favorite and over in this game. What do you think here, Conor? Huskies, Buffaloes?
Yeah, lately they haven't been good, and their overs have been money, so I can't really argue there. I lean Colorado, always better here at home. Washington struggles to shoot, especially from deep. Colorado, really good 3-point defense. Home team's at 29%. Washington shoots at 31%. They got to get there to the mid-60s, and they might. So I'm off the total, but I lean Colorado. I'd lay it before I even took points right now with Washington.
All right, we continue along here. It is UCLA, Arizona State. Pac-12 continues. We've got UCLA here, 5-point road favorites. The total 133.5 in this one. 4-0, by the way, on the road. That's straight up for the UCLA Bruins this year. They've Washington State was a close call, but other than that, we saw them pummel Maryland and Washington away from home. They went home and they beat USC, and then they demolished both Utah and Colorado. So Bruins are playing some really good basketball. Arizona State, though, has won 4 in a row coming into this game. We'll see if they can keep it going here against UCLA. It is worth noting, last year at Arizona State, it was 87-84 in overtime in favor of Arizona State. The year before that at ASU, UCLA with a 6-point overtime win. Very fortunate point spread cover. In fact, if you had Arizona State in that game, you were very unlucky. So I'm not rushing to lay 5. They've had problems here in Tempe. And then go back even further, 84-66 ASU at home against UCLA the year before that, 83-72. I mean, it's just been repeatedly Arizona State giving UCLA problems here in this building. So I'm tempted to lean to the home underdog a little bit, although I don't like the idea of going against the Bruins at the moment, playing so well. But they've had a tough time here in Tempe. I'd lean Arizona State. I think the total's a little light as well. Series history, 7-1 to the over in the last 8 meetings between UCLA and Arizona State. And some of the scores, too. We had 159, 161, 156, 147, 160, 155. I get it that Arizona State has slowed it down a little, probably a little better defensively, probably a little worse offensively this year than we've seen in years past. But this total is a huge step down from what we've seen in past head-to-head games. UCLA, I get it's been an under machine. Arizona State's gone over in 4 straight, and series history points over. And I think the reason why you're also getting this total so low is because of just how it just shut down and just phenomenal the defense of UCLA has been during this great run where they've trended under. But I just find at 133, which is where this total is right now between these two teams, the value is certainly going up and over the total for me. What do you think here, Conor? UCLA, Arizona State.
Yeah, the history's not great, but I think it's just hot hand who shoots it. But both these teams, to me, it leans under. It's already moved, though, a little bit too much. It's already moved 2.5 points to 133. And Arizona State's been their defense. This UCLA team's really good, but I don't like this spot for them. I'm not going to lean. I'm on Arizona State. I at least think they cover. I'll be on a money line, and I do lean the under, even though I think it's gone down a little bit too much.
All right, we continue along here. BYU and Santa Clara now. West Coast Conference matchup. Santa Clara, 2.5 point home favorites, 145.5, 146 being the total in this one. BYU, a 91-81 home win against Pepperdine. Solid bounce back after just a crushing, tough loss against Gonzaga. They fought their guts out, and they ended up falling just short. Before that, they had actually beaten USD San Diego handily on the road. They beat Pacific by 20 on the road as well, but they did lose at Loyola Marymount 64-59. And this is probably another one of the better teams they've faced here on the road. Santa Clara is having a sneaky good season here right now. They are playing some excellent basketball, 7-2 straight up, and ATS in their last 9 games. And the only losses were to the 2 perennial West Coast Conference heavyweights. 3-point loss to St. Mary's at home and a 5-point loss to Gonzaga at home. And they could have won both of those games. This is not a team I'm in any rush to get in front of right now. Santa Clara, really, really strong team this year. BYU on the road, I'm not in love with backing them. I think Santa Clara is favored here for a good reason. I think they'll win on their home floor, and I'll go money line with them here, minus 140 instead of laying the points, which I normally do for these very short favorites. Conor, what are you thinking here?
I agree with you. I think this Santa Clara team, they're always got a pretty good basketball team, but I think they've been better. Maybe, a team like Gonzaga has been down, even BYU. I think they can win here tonight. I don't blame you going with the money line. And we'll see, BYU playing more to the under. These teams, Santa Clara's been a bit more over. Will this get over? I don't know. I'm not going to mess with the total. I just think Santa Clara can win here.
All right, there we go. Next up, we've got just a couple games left for the marquee games. We stay in the West Coast Conference, St. Mary's and Pepperdine. St. Mary's 12-point road favorites here, 140 and a half is the total here. Pepperdine, of course, on their home floor in Malibu after a couple of road games last week that did not go their way. But home court hasn't necessarily been great for them either. They lose by 10 to Santa Clara as slight home favorites in that game. And then they were 7.5-point favorites at home to Pacific. They lose outright. I mean, they've been flying over the total. They have just not been able to. I think this game actually could get over the total as well. I know St. Mary's is a half-court team, very strong defensive team, but don't sleep on the way they've been able to score lately. You know, they've actually gone over in 3 of their last 5 games, St. Mary's Gales basketball games. The reason for that is 85, 85, 76, 78. So that defense and that lack of pace, they almost make up for it in offensive efficiency when their games go over the total. Yeah, they don't play fast. They're very good defensively, but still they can manage to see some of their games end up going up and over the total. And 2 meetings last year between these two teams also ended up going over the total as well. The one concern here would be, you know, the total is 140. A lot of these overs that have been hitting with St. Mary's have been these, you know, 120s and low 130s with the total, and none of the games have cracked 140. So that's probably the one little fear that I have, but I still would lean in the direction of over 139.5, 140 in this game. I don't want to lay 12 with St. Mary's on the road necessarily, but they did crush San Francisco the last road game, and Pepperdine has shown me more than enough problems lately that I wouldn't be in a rush to grab double digits with Pepperdine here against, you know, one of the top teams in the West Coast Conference. Also worth noting, too, St. Mary's last year, 77-62 and 81-57. 2 blowouts here over Pepperdine last year. So I'd probably take the road favorite here before the home dog. Connor's back with us. Connor, what do you think? St. Mary's and Pepperdine.
It's just clash of two here, you know. The big offense is a great defense by St. Mary's, but it is a lot on the road. I'm off this game completely. Can Pepperdine kind of shoot it well from 3 and stuff? Can they get that going? Because if they can, they might cover this number. This might just be just a bit too much, but I don't know if I get to the window here.
All right, we got Oregon State and Stanford here. Final game of the marquee game. Stanford's laying 11 in this game, and the total 131 across the board. Look, these are obviously 2 teams not playing well at the moment. Oregon State 7-11, Stanford 5-12. If you actually look at the Pac-12 standings, these are 2 teams that are down toward the bottom end of the standings. Oregon State 1-6 conference record. Stanford 0-7 in conference play. This has been a horrendous underachievement for Jared Haas's Stanford team. They've been just dreadful, and they weren't supposed to be like this. And it has turned into a pretty much a disastrous run. Again, 0-7 in conference play. Think about that. 0-7 in conference play. They're laying 11 here. I have to take Oregon State, Connor. I mean, I'm not saying that they're trustworthy either. They stink. These are 2. This is stink and stink going head to head here in this game. I get it, but Oregon State, I think you got to trust them a little bit, don't you? I mean, we just saw them at home against Arizona. 12-point loss as 15.5-point dogs against a terrific team. Even Arizona State, it's not a bad team. They lost by 5. Competitive in defeat, Oregon State. So at least they've shown me a couple of instances here in a row where you're seeing some signs of improvement from the Beavers. You're not seeing anything like that from this Stanford team, and they're the one laying 11 in this game. So, you know, just out of where this number is, you know, to me, I've got to grab plus 11 with Oregon State and just hope for the best. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, they played better the last couple. It's at home though. That's like the lone thing here. Stanford lately's kind of beat them when they at home. Seems like 10-12. It's just the numbers right there. The one thing is, I'm not laying 11 points at Stanford. No fucking way. So it's the dog here or pass, and I lean under. You know, Oregon State. If they want to cover, they got to just slow this up like they can. Slow pace, decent defense, bad offense.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, there you go. Those are the marquee games. Let's get into we'll get into Q&A in just a second. But first, Any games that we have not talked about, Connor, that you like? What do you like?
Yeah, let's hit them. Fullerton, Long Beach. I like the over 145. I'm waiting on Murray. I think's got to play. Even if he doesn't, the defense is so bad. I thought this total was light. These teams have gone over a ton. So I lean that way, and I haven't bet that yet, but I like it. Wilmington plus 3.5. I think they can keep it close there. Hawaii, Irvine under 133. I think is just a tough game that stays under too high. So I thought this would be 133, 134. I'd be on the under. It is. This is a lean for me because it's come down. I didn't grab it at 132. Rice, North Texas, under 129.5, but haven't bet it, just a lean. We hit the Gonzaga over there. Under App State. Coastal can score a ton, but App State's just going to drag you into the 60s. I don't think this team's broke 70 in a long time when I was going through it today. So even at 137.5, I think that stays under. This one was a lean for me. I just think it's stretched out a little bit too much. Southern Utah, this team, number 2 behind Gonzaga, 86 per 6. I think they win. It's just stretched out a bit and lean over, obviously, there. And I think that is it. I might have one or two more, but go ahead, fire away.
Yeah, you know what? I've got some that are in common with you in a couple of those. But let me just go down the list again. Rapid fire for me here. Let me just see here. We've got Charleston and Monmouth over 144 in that game. I'm on Towson minus. It's up to 6 now. I got 5.5. It's up to 6. I like it. What else have we got here? William and Mary plus down to 5, but I think it was a few too many points for Delaware there. William and Mary plus the points I thought was worth a look.
You got to give a Bill and his bitch. Come on.
Exactly. Bill and his bitch. I like Northeastern against Stony Brook. They've taken money. I'm on Purdue, Fort Wayne, Wright State over the total, 147.5. Hampton, Drexel. I took 15 with Hampton. Hampton's not good. Hampton's terrible. But Drexel laying 15? Really? I mean, Drexel, who's been just all over the map? No. In a conference game, I'll take my chances with Hampton Inn for a nice, comfortable stay and a nice accommodations tonight for me. Hampton Inn plus 15 against Drexel. You mentioned Wilmington plus 3.5 against Hofstra. Hofstra's really been disappointing. I have a hard time laying points with them. I'm with you there. Wilmington, live road underdog there. Sam Houston, and I like Stephen F. Austin there. The numbers moved, but I still like SFA plus the points against Sam Houston State. I thought it was a little bit high. Marshall's playing great. I'm laying 5 on the road with Marshall over Texas State. South Alabama, Southern Miss, lean Southern Miss there in that game. Didn't pull the trigger. I'm on FAU, UTSA over 144. Robert Morris, Milwaukee over 142. Eastern Washington, Northern Colorado over 153.5. Oral Roberts, North Dakota State over 151.5. Tennessee Martin, Southeast Missouri State over 156.5. So we got Overpalooza here, this stretch of the board for me. A bunch of them there. Oh, another one, Youngstown and Green Bay over 146.5 over the total there. Southern Utah, I'm with you on the Thunderbirds, -6 against New Mexico State. I'm with you there, Connor. Florida International, UTEP over 132, just too low. And look, UTEP's actually scoring a little bit now. They don't play fast, but they're starting to score a little bit better. FIU is going to push pace, so I think over 132. That total was a little bit low. Let's see what else we've got here. Southern Indiana, Lindenwood probably goes over the total, 144. I bet some of that. Let me see what else here. I took a shot with Northridge plus 16.5 against UC Santa Barbara. It's just Santa Barbara is very good, really, really good. But that's a lot of points they place. They're excellent defensively, but it's such a slow pace. Maybe Northridge can hang around. Kind of a flat spot, too, for Santa Barbara. I'm going back to the well with our old friend Tarleton State here as an underdog. Now, I know they've kind of been underwhelming lately, but at Seattle, I think getting 7 with Tarleton State was worth a look in that game. Pacific San Francisco, I like the over a little bit there. We talked about the last 3 games. So that's the main board. Added board, NJIT, New Jersey Tech, Bryant, over 152. You know, I love those Bryant overs. They've been very good. Queens and North Florida probably is a good over. I took it at 157.5 in that game. Maine Black Bears plus 12, 12.5 against Vermont. A bit of a regional rivalry thing going on. I don't know if Vermont's necessarily all as good as they've been in the past. So I think Maine could hang around there plus the double digits. I'm on Bellarmine plus 2.5 against Austin Peay. And the last game of this main board / added board that I'm on tonight is over 154, Eastern Kentucky and Lipscomb. So there you go. That's everything.
Yeah, I didn't have much on the added board. I have one game, and I'm waiting because he's too big, I think, for Riverside. Because I lean them plus 4.5 is Pullen. Zach Pullen, the guy scores 20 regularly. Just his status is too big. I really like him to be in because I don't trust Davis there. I think then they always play close games. Even with him out, they could be in it, but I'd really like to have him in. That was one of my favorite looks if he's in the game for Riverside.
I lean Pacific for Okie, asking about Pacific. I lean to Pacific. It feels like it's a lot of points, but Pacific's one of those teams that ripped out to a hot start at the beginning of the season, and they've kind of come back down to earth big time lately. But for San Francisco, I could see them falling asleep a little bit in this spot. They had some big games lately, San Francisco. This is now kind of a sleepy spot for them. So I don't mind taking a shot with those Pacific Tigers plus the points there in that game tonight against San Francisco. Jake, I mentioned Southern Miss. I didn't bet it, but I lean that way. Rice plus, that's a lot of points there in that North Texas game. But North Texas is so good. I wonder if Rice is going to score all that effectively. So that's why I stayed off Rice. Yeah, I like Towson, but the number's gone up, Nathan Serna. But I'm with you there, Towson minus the points. And I think there's one more question that was asked. I'm trying to see where it was. Oh, yeah, Rocco with Youngstown State. Youngstown laying the points, or I like the team total, honestly, because Youngstown defensively, it goes in and out sometimes for them. Like they can be good defensively sometimes, but you don't always get it from them. So the team total is probably what I like more than the laying the points with Youngstown in that game. And Jay Peasy, what up? How's he doing? Good to see Jay Peasy in the chat. Under first half, Long Beach State, CS Fullerton. Yeah, that one, Long Beach plays pretty fast, but doesn't always result in overs for them because sometimes they have efficiency issues shooting the ball. So, that might help you out there if you're looking at that first half under in that game. So I think that's it. Oh, yeah, UMKC, North Dakota over. That's a very low total in that game for good reason. North Dakota is not exactly a fast tempo team. UMKC won't push it. It is low, though, and there has been some offensive upside or improvement, mild offensive improvement from both teams. So maybe you got some value with over because of that. So we'll have to wait and see. There you go. Ramon Scott saying I'm on several of these Bobano over pit. Hey, it's been an over week, honestly, in college basketball. That's why I'm having a nice week. I mean, I've been picking off a lot of these overs, and I'm an over better by principle, but they've been coming through, a lot of them. It's been a really good week for these Mountain West overs. My goodness. All week long have just been incredible, really in a lot of different conferences. My reads with the overs have been good this week. So let's hope that continues tonight. Conor, anything else you want to say? And if not, we'll get to best bets.
No, if you have anything, hit it up now. Forever hold your peace. Yep. I like Seattle, and obviously at home, it's just stretching it a little bit. I think they win. I'm not crazy parlay, but maybe parlay that. I think they definitely win. I just don't know if they cover that now, around 7.
I've kept off Tarleton for a while now, and good thing I have because they've kind of slumped lately and struggled. Some of it's been injury related. I think they're going to get a 1 key piece tonight back too. So I'm jumping back in on Tarleton State. If they don't cover tonight, we're not touching them for a while after tonight.
Yeah, you want them with points.
Yeah, for sure. And this is where we want them, plus the points against Seattle. So I took Tarleton there in that game. All right, good stuff. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up with best bets right after we hear from Manscaped and Southtown 101. All right, Southtown 101. When you're in San Antonio, Texas, stop in. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, karaoke. Southtown 101. Manscaped.com. Promo code PubSports. 20% off and free shipping with a promo code PubSports. Cal Irvine or Hawaii? Would you lean with either of those? I'm just trying to see.
I'm on the under.
In that one. I mean, they're betting Hawaii, and I don't think Irvine's nearly as good as they've been. But at the same time, it now feels like there's value on Irvine now. Only 2.5 at home.
Well, yeah, is this Hawaii team that good? And can they play this well off the island? That's always been the problem. Yeah, they're betting Hawaii. This line opened 4.5, down to 2.5.
It is one of the better Hawaii basketball teams I've seen in years, but I'm going to need to see it away from the island, honestly. And Irvine's been one of the, those with Long Beach State and Santa Barbara, and they've always been one of the top teams in this conference. And yeah, let's see Hawaii show up away from that island against a solid. Again, I think Irvine's had better teams than they've had. They've had these Mamadou Njais and these really big time players the last few years. I don't think they're as good this year, but I still think they could still win this game at home. And you're only laying 2.5, so I'd be careful with Hawaii personally.
Yeah. For sure. Leg show. Yeah, we talked about it. I mean, Babano, I don't know if he's bet it, but that was where I'm looking. I think it's Oregon State or nothing.
I mean, it's two shit teams. It's two ugly teams, but I'll take my chances that Stanford has no business laying 11 to anybody right now, not even Oregon State. So we'll see how that one goes.
That's how I feel. Definitely.
Right. How do we feel about best bets? Conor, what do you like for best bet?
Well, we already talked about you're on it. Just take the over, the Gonzaga, Loyola Marymount. Riverside, I got to wait for pulling. I want to take them 4.5, but that's just a wait and see. So I'll give you one more. People probably are on UCLA. I'm on Arizona State. Give me the +5. I think they cover, and they maybe even win tonight.
There you go. A couple of best bets, namely Loyola Marymount Gonzaga, and Arizona State, plus the points for Conor Mack with best bets here on this Thursday card. My best bet, this is an interesting decision here. There's a couple of underdogs that I'm looking. I know I've been over heavy this week, but I think I'm going to go with a side here tonight in this. I'm going to go with Wilmington. Wilmington plus 3.5 against Hofstra. Hofstra stinks right now. Hofstra's just not good. I mean, I cashed a ticket with Towson against Hofstra, and Towson just blew the doors off them. Like, Hofstra's got real issues. It's about as weak a Hofstra team as I've seen in many, many years. They've always been very good in this Colonial Conference. Not the case this year. Defensively, they've never been good, even in their good teams. Yeah. This year, it's their offense has taken a huge step back. It's not the team that's lighting it up like they have in years past. And Wilmington's playing good ball. And to be honest with you, Wilmington might be better than Hofstra, and you're getting 3.5 with them. So there's my best bet. Wilmington, UNC Wilmington plus 3.5 against Hofstra. There you go.
And if they shoot it well, Wilmington, they've kind of, it hasn't been great for them. If they're not only the 3.5, they could win it. Hofstra's in a mess. They desperately need to win at home, but I don't think they should be laying points. I think that game is more of a pick 'em. Yep. So I like it.
Worst case scenario, they lose by a bucket or they lose by a possession, and that'll cash the ticket too because they're getting 3.5. So Wilmington plus 3.5 for me for best bet against Hofstra. There you go. That's the Thursday card. Tomorrow, Friday, we'll be back 5 p.m. Eastern. It's Friday, which means guess what? There's no Q&A and none of that tomorrow. We'll get through the whole card tomorrow because it's such a short Friday slate. Again, we're going to have MAC, Metro Atlantic, Ivy League. A couple Big East games, a Mountain West game, I think an A10 game. That's what you get usually on a Friday night. So looking forward to that tomorrow on the Friday edition of the show. Join us for that. For Conor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Thursday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll see you again tomorrow, Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern for another edition of the College Basketball Net Profit Show right here on Pub Sports Radio.